Well, Kenya is fronting Raila Odinga to become the AUC chairperson. But it is worth noting that this is not the first time that Kenya has made a stab at the AUC chairmanship. Just a few years ago, in 2017 for that matter, Kenya tried to field its candidate for the AUC chairperson, and that was Ambassador Amina Mohamed, the then Kenya Foreign Secretary. Well, as fate will have it, Ambassador Amina Mohamed will take second place in a fierce competition against the current AUC chairperson, who is Musa Faki. Well, Kenya and Chad went into a diplomatic competition where Chad won, and I'm going to give 4 reasons as to why Ambassador Amina Mohamed lost the AUC chairperson, and perhaps Raila Odinga could take a roadmap and make sure that he capitalizes on the wins and try as much as possible to suppress the losses that Amina Mohamed made so that he can be the next AUC chairperson. Kenya suffered what many have suffered in personal relationships: high expectations and betrayal. Well, Kenya was betrayed by one of her neighbors, very close neighbors, that is Uganda. Kenya thought that Uganda would vote in her favor when it came to such a close contest as was experienced in 2017 when Amina Mohamed was going head to head against Musa Faki. Well, Uganda voted for Kenya only in the first round and didn't vote for Kenya in the following rounds. As I said earlier, this went to the 7th round. So the fact that Kenya lost such a very close ally, but particularly a major trading partner with Kenya, who shares even languages with Kenya, was a very big blow to Kenya at that particular time and the diplomatic team of Kenya, as well as countries like Burundi and Djibouti also did not vote for Kenya. These are countries in the Eastern region, the Eastern Africa region, and were expected to vote for Kenya. Kenya did not expect that these 3 countries will vote otherwise or will abstain to vote for Kenya in the following rounds for reasons that they are our neighbors and much was expected for them. So the failure of Uganda, Burundi, and Djibouti at that time to vote for Kenya was a telltale sign of how things will go forward because of the expectations that was given to them and the kind of perspective that it gave to other nations when your neighbor does not support you in such a very, very close bid. The second issue was the issue of Anglophone and Francophone. Now, I know that one has been spoken a lot, more so right now, when Raila Odinga is going head to head against the Djiboutian counterpart, Mohamed Youssef. We have spoken about the fact that many AUC votes are taken in lines of the languages that countries speak, and that came into true nature in 2017 when Amina Mohamed was going against Musa Faki. So at that time, Francophone countries decided that they will back their fellow, that is Musa Faki from Chad, to be the AUC chairperson. Many Anglophone countries supported Kenya for the matter that Kenya speaks English and they can understand each other well. But the tipping point was when the Botswana lady was removed from the race because of the voting regulations of the AUC. When the race is very tight, the one with the lesser number of votes gets dropped out and you remain with the remaining candidates. So as when that happened, there were changes. The South African countries, 15 of them, SADC that is, decided to back Amina Mohamed, and that was a good thing. But they didn't go to the full extent, or they didn't go the entire way to vote for Amina Mohamed. In the last round of voting, SADC regions decided to abstain from the vote, and that made the difference when it came to Anglophone and Francophone in countries in Africa, where each side will try as much as possible to vote according to the languages that they speak. Well, the third reason was the Moroccan factor. And by the way, I have done a full video on this, on how Morocco and the Sahrawi states will affect even these coming elections, the AUC elections that will be held in 2025 February. So go and check it in my other videos. I have done a full video on Sahrawi and how it affects the AUC candidacy. But just in a nutshell, Morocco was very, very fierce opposing Amina Mohamed because Amina Mohamed made a trip to Algeria and visited the Sahrawi government. So in that, Morocco saw it as a provocation because Morocco for the entire time has been saying that the Sahrawi region, the Sahrawi state, as we know Western Sahara, is a part of Morocco. The Algerians say that the Sahrawi state should be left to determine its own future. That is the stand also of the UN and the AU, and that has been the stand of Kenya all along. And Kenya was going a little bit too far on it by sending Amina Mohamed to campaign in Western Sahara, the government of Western Sahara, and to have very close ties with Algeria. So when you have very close ties with Algeria, it means that you are not in very good terms with Morocco. And so Morocco took it upon itself to go ahead and decampaign Amina Mohamed. They literally went to countries and were very open to decampaign Amina Mohamed, and they managed to coalesce some very good chunk of votes, more so from North Africa and some parts of West Africa, to not to vote for Amina Mohamed. And that also played a major factor for the reasons as to why Amina Mohamed was never elected and became second in the race for the AUC chairperson in 2017. Go check that video out for the extended long version of how that unfolded. And the last and final factor why Amina Mohamed lost was the dropping out of the SADC candidates. Now, I have briefly explained what happened after the dropping out of the SADC candidates. Well, the SADC countries, 15 of them, decided not to support any other candidates after the dropping out of their candidate. They saw as if it was of no use. They first supported Amina Mohamed, the Kenyan candidate, and then decided not to support anyone because they were not in the race. And that just paints a picture of how important it is to have all candidates, to have all countries, to have all organization of countries really backing you when you're going for the AU seat. And that even tells us of the importance of running the race till the last minute, because right now we might say that yes, 20 countries have come out and said that they will support Raila Odinga, but this one is not a sure bet. You cannot say that, you cannot sit back and relax and say that these 20 countries are going to vote for me. Diplomacy changes in a matter of minutes. It can change in a matter of seconds, because just a single statement from Raila Odinga, just a single statement from William Ruto can turn the tables, and you'll see countries changing alliances very, very quickly. And as you see in these AUC elections that took place in 2017, Kenya had a very good upper hand to win the elections. But as you can see, Kenya was defeated by Chad. Why? Because of the diplomatic changes that happened in a matter of seconds. When they were voting, they went up to the 7th round. That means that they were having conversations after every round of voting. These presidents were having consultations. It is not a matter of sitting back and relaxing and saying that you are Raila Odinga, that you are Djibouti, you are Mohamed Yusuf, you have extensive years of diplomacy. It is not a matter of chest thumping. It is a matter of having solid agreements with these presidents, having a conversation that will guarantee that you have the votes of these presidents in the entire 7 rounds. If Uganda can decide not to vote for Kenya, then there's no other country that can decide not to vote for, because Uganda is the country that Kenya shares a lot with. All the characteristics that you can find in Kenya, you'll find in Uganda. And at that time, Yoweri Museveni decided not to vote for Kenya for reasons best known, because they cannot be public. These are secret ballots, but these are the voting patterns of what happened in 2017. And these are the main 4 reasons as to why Amina Mohamed lost the elections. So perhaps Raila Odinga can take what went wrong in 2017. Musalia Mudavadi, the foreign secretary, who is now in Namibia trying to vote to woo Namibia, because Namibia is part of the SADC. And as we spoke about SADC, 15 strong countries are needed in these elections. So it is very important to have everyone on board, but the much more important thing to do is to keep reminding these presidents, is to keep the conversation alive, is to keep tabs at every changes, at every diplomatic change, is to be very cautious of the statements that one makes, because we know Raila Odinga sometimes is a bit loose in statements, in making statements. We saw that in the last campaign, saying a lot of things that didn't go as planned to the elections. This is the time for Raila Odinga to be very cautious about the statements that he is making, as well as William Ruto, so that it doesn't seem as if Raila Odinga is getting the AUC seat for national politics purposes. He should be going for this AUC seat for the purpose of the entire continent. If it is seen by any country that this person is only going for this AUC seat for his own personal gain or for the national purposes, for him to have a stature in this country, then they might be a bit skeptical of voting him in and choose Mohamed Yusuf as the alternative. One thing different that Kenya is doing this time, Kenya has decided to support Morocco. Kenya is in very close contact with Morocco. We know that the fertilizer program that William Ruto has depends on very close ties with Morocco. Morocco is among the world's biggest suppliers of fertilizer because it has abundant phosphate in the country. So it supplies fertilizer to many countries and at a discount. So that is why William Ruto had to go close to Morocco. And that means that Raila Odinga will not have the Moroccan opposition at this time, as well as it is possible for Raila Odinga to beat the Francophonie and Anglophony by him going closer to Anglophone countries and try as much as possible to bring them together. These are the reasons as to why it is very important for Raila Odinga to keep the momentum, keep the fire burning, go to all presidents and campaign fiercely for him to win the AUC seat, to make sure that he suppresses the negatives that happened in 2017 and capitalize on the positives so that he can be able to be successful in winning the AUC seat. And as it was demonstrated, there is no country that is very small to have the AUC seats. You can literally not compare Kenya and Chad. Even right now, many years later, you cannot compare Chad and Kenya. Kenya is way ahead than Chad, but Chad managed to convince other presidents to vote for it. So Djibouti is just as legit as Kenya to win this seat, and it is possible for Kenya to lose if Raila Odinga does not put up a very fierce campaign, if Musalia Mudavadi does not make sure that he has everything lined for this battle and to make sure that they win as they are expected to win.